disciplina do Programa de Pós-Graduação em Comunicação, né? E, além de ser uma disciplina, ele faz parte, como um evento de extensão, do Seminário Biopolíticas do Futuro, né? Um seminário organizado pelo Grupo de Pesquisa Imagem, Tecnologia e Subjetividade. Então, primeiro, eu gostaria de agradecer ao próprio Programa de Pós-Graduação, especialmente ao professor Curvelo, por dar o apoio a esse tipo de evento e, inclusive, financiar a parte, né, do custo da vinda do Stefan. Muito importante, sobretudo num momento de contingenciamento, né, que a gente sabe que a gente está vivendo. Então, cada evento hoje que a gente consegue realizar na universidade pública é uma resistência, né? Então, esse curso, também queria agradecer aos meus alunos de graduação da Faculdade de Educação, meus alunos e os alunos da Fabíola, da Faculdade de Comunicação, aos meus estudantes, às minhas orientandas, né, e aos estudantes do Programa de Pós-Graduação de Comunicação da FAC. Sem essas pessoas, realmente, a gente não teria conseguido realizar esse evento. A equipe de tradução, coordenada pela Letícia, que está aqui e que vai contribuir bastante para que esse curso seja acessível a todos. Deixa eu ver se eu não esqueci de nada. Queria agradecer a vocês, que eu sei que é um período complicado, final de semestre, todo mundo super ocupado, vir aqui passar uma semana todos os dias de manhã, né? Agradeço e gostaria que a gente mantivesse a assiduidade até o final. E, finalmente, queria agradecer ao Stefan pela oportunidade de estar aqui compartilhando, né? Thank you. Por estar aqui. E vou falar um pouquinho do Stefan Villa, que foi o professor que me recebeu quando eu estive em Berlim. Então, isso é uma forma de eu retribuir também o acolhimento que eu tive quando eu fiz minha pesquisa de pós-doc. O Stefan é professor de literatura alemã moderna na Universidade de Humboldt, em Berlim. Ele dá aula de literatura comparada no século XVIII, do século XVII até o presente. Ele foi vice-diretor do ZFL, que é um centro de estudos em literatura e cultura, em Berlim, um dos mais importantes institutos de ciências humanas da Europa. No ZFL, ele coordenou um projeto chamado Segurança e Futuro, uma abordagem dos estudos culturais. Ele tem pesquisado, nos últimos anos, futuro e futuridade na literatura, história cultural da genealogia, geração e herança, teorias da linguagem, tradução, literatura e música. Ele publicou livros, os livros, infelizmente, estão em alemão, Ópera e Cinema, Histórias de um Relacionamento, o segundo livro, Futuro Seguro, uma perspectiva dos estudos culturais, Futurologias, Ordens do Conhecimento do Futuro, Casos de Sucessão, Teorias e Práticas de Transferência Cultural, e o Conceito de Geração em Cultura e Ciência. Agradeço, então. Antes de passar a palavra do professor Stefan, eu queria dar alguns esclarecimentos sobre o curso. Então, os textos debatidos estão todos no Drive disponíveis, espero que vocês tenham acessado. Os filmes que a gente vai discutir durante o curso, eles estão também disponíveis no Drive. E a gente organizou uma sessão no período da tarde, então eu gostaria que vocês indicassem, não sei se vocês já indicaram na hora da inscrição, se vocês vão de fato vir, para a gente não ter que organizar uma sessão e não ter ninguém aqui no horário da tarde. Para os alunos de pós-graduação, a ideia é que vocês sejam avaliados, né, a partir da presença, da participação no curso, e eu pediria para escrever no final do curso um comentário, uma lauda, no mínimo, sobre o curso, avaliando e tal, que poderia ser em inglês ou em português. Se for em inglês, o Stefan pode ler, né, e fazer os comentários dele. Se for em português, vão ser textos que eu vou avaliar, tá? Uma avaliação proforme, mais proforme. O que vai ser mais significativo é a assiduidade mesmo. Para os participantes que não são da pós, a gente precisa que vocês, aliás, todos, se inscrevam no CIEX. Né? Não sei se vocês já fizeram isso de manhã. A ideia era que vocês já se inscrevessem hoje, porque a inscrição precisa ser antes do curso realmente, de fato, desenrolar. Então, vocês têm que inscrever no CIEX. Então, é isso. Espero que a gente tenha ótimos momentos aqui, compartilhe reflexões acerca do futuro, que, na verdade, são reflexões acerca do presente. Né? Obrigada, bom dia.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much, Claudia, for inviting me. Thank you all for coming. I hope that you are all able to understand English, more or less, but there will be translations, and thank you in advance for your efforts in translating, because actually I'm very sorry that I'm not able to speak Portuguese. I speak a little Spanish, so if we have our discussions maybe in various languages mixed, so if you can speak Spanish, I can understand it better than Portuguese, of which I understand just a tiny little bit. Or French would be very good too. Or German, of course, if someone speaks German. So thank you very much, and I'm really happy to share my thoughts about the future, about representations of futurity in the arts, in media, and particularly in film with you. So over the next 4 days, as you know, we will discuss 4 movies, 4 films, North American films from the 1960s to the 2010s, so rather new. Of course, there would be many other examples from recent films, but I chose more or less classical examples of prevention in film. And today, this is going to be an introductory session meeting. So, would you want to translate now, or should I? Yeah.
Yeah. Ok, obrigada. Ele agradeceu por vocês todos estarem aqui. Espero que todo mundo entenda inglês, mas a gente vai traduzir de qualquer jeito. Ele se desculpou por não falar português, mas ele fala espanhol e francês e alemão, então as discussões podem ter várias línguas de uma vez. Ele está muito feliz em compartilhar os pensamentos sobre o futuro e a mídia, particularmente no cinema. Então, nos próximos dias, vocês vão falar dessa perspectiva a partir de filmes norte-americanos que começam nos anos 1960, então são filmes mais novos, e discutir os exemplos de prevenção em filmes.
So, as you see, there is already the Portuguese translation of what I'm going to read in a few minutes, so my introductory paper. But before, I would be interested in knowing, maybe finding out a little bit why all of us are here. So Claudia already alluded to the importance of thinking about the future today, as is always important in any kind of present, always was important in any kind of historical present to think about the future. And futures can be very, very different. So when we go back to the, at least, European Middle Ages and early modernism, I think also here what was transmissed as European future knowledge in early modernism to the Americas, so what was brought here by the missionaries, this has, of course, a lot to do with Christian religion. So thinking future in terms of the end of the world that is about to come, and most likely we are going to see it. So that was very roughly the attitude towards the future in the Middle Ages and in early modernism, both I think in Catholic and Protestant Christian religions. There is going to be an end of all of this, and we are going to see salvation and the coming of Christ, the coming again of the Messiah. And this can be read, of course, in the very last chapter of the New Testament of the Christian Bible, the Apocalypse of St. John, where all of this is staged in an impressive kind of way, and also with an interesting temporality. Because if you read this last chapter of the Bible, you see that all of this ending takes a very long time. It takes hundreds and thousands of years. There's going to be a 1,000-year reign of Satan until he is condemned for good. And there's going to be at the very end the New Jerusalem, but you need a lot of eschatology, final things, to appear again and again until the very end is reached. And then even this New Jerusalem at the end of the Bible is measured, so you have some kind of it needed to be made plausible for human thinking in time and space. So even the end, the ultimate end of things has a certain temporality. And then we have other kinds of futures in modern times with an open time horizon, times of progress, and so on and so forth. But maybe you want to translate this first. Sorry, very rough, speedy historical overview.
Ok, onde estava? Ele fala que vocês vão falar da perspectiva do futuro a partir da Idade Média e do início do modernismo, que pensavam no futuro como o fim do mundo. Ele fala da perspectiva católica e como isso é falado no Novo Testamento, que o fim das coisas tem uma certa temporalidade. Então, falar de novos futuros, outros tipos de futuro e novos horizontes.
O futuro pode ser bem diferente, dependendo do momento histórico, e aí ele comparou um pouco desse fim de mundo, do Apocalipse, que é um futuro que precisava ser vivido humanamente, de certa forma, mas que era um horizonte de fim, que se contrapõe ao futuro moderno, que é um futuro mais aberto, que é o futuro do progresso, né?
Yeah, and this is interesting. The Apocalypse is particularly interesting for the first two films that we are going to discuss, because they deal with the end of the world in atomic war from the 1960s. So this anxiety of apocalypse and of catastrophe. I just mentioned another important future term, namely progress. So something that was invented, if one may say so, in the 18th century, so that the time of history that is unfolding into an open future, but with a hopeful perspective that in the end, again, there may be an end to this history when progress is really everywhere. So when we have a society that has progressed to a state of perfection. But this already in 18th and then 19th, 20th centuries is a matter that is very much discussed and contested. Is there going to be an end of progress, a fulfilled life? There is, I think, just one tiny passage in all of Marx's works, early texts from the 1840s. I think it's the Deutsche Ideologie, the German ideology, where he makes a small remark to how the communist society may look like. He say, if I want to go fishing in the morning, I will go fishing. If I want to relax in the afternoon, I will relax. If I want to do theoretical work, theoretical discussion, I can do it. So I can actually do whatever I want, whatever I feel like in a communist society. But as I said, this is just one tiny remark of a maybe utopian perspective, and otherwise Marx and Engels, Lenin and all of them were very critical about utopias. They wanted a scientific approach to history and to progress. And thinking of progress, at least from a European and again maybe German perspective, this here is the land of the future. You probably know this book by Stefan Zweig from the 1940s, Brasil, País do Futuro. So in this case, a little strange, awkward idea that very emphatic at least and self-contradictory, but Stefan Zweig as an immigrant put a lot of hope in the future abilities of Brazil, and I think, but this is just what comes to my mind, or what I have read, and maybe can see here, that this very capital, of course, is seems to be to me the epitome of this futuristic effort. So, from my part, and I will say this in a few minutes, I'm really very, very interested in knowing about what the future means here, what the problem of future may look like from a Brazilian and also South American, Latin American perspective, because my own perspective is very much a northwestern one. So this is from my interest in this whole course. And now, yeah. Sorry.
A ideia do progresso a partir do século XVIII tem uma perspectiva mais otimista, já que o progresso está em todo lugar. Nos séculos XVIII, XIX e XX, essa ideia começa a ser muito contestada, porque o progresso vai continuar, o progresso vai parar, como é que vai ser? Isso é uma questão que é abordada pelo marxismo, que pensam como seria um mundo comunista em uma discussão teórica. Em outros trabalhos, eles pensam em como é que nós nos sentiríamos em uma sociedade comunista, falando mais numa perspectiva utópica, a qual muita gente é crítica. Eles queriam realmente trazer essa discussão teórica. Nesse livro que ele citou, Brasil, País do Futuro...
Só um minuto, Júlia.
Luísa.
Ele falou que em pequenas passagens... Numa pequena passagem, o Marx... Pode ter passado isso. Vou te complementando, posso?
Claro.
Não atrapalho?
Não.
Tá. Numa pequena passagem, ele disse que, embora o Marx seja bastante crítico, às vezes, às utopias, ou esse discurso da utopia, numa pequena passagem ele vai falar que a terra socialista, dessa terra comunista, as pessoas poderiam fazer o que elas quisessem. Se elas quisessem ir pescar, elas iriam pescar. Se elas quisessem ir trabalhar, ou se elas quisessem ir fazer o que elas quisessem, as pessoas seriam livres nessa terra. É como se fosse uma perspectiva um pouco salvacionista do comunismo, assim, né? Uma perspectiva, então, que, embora o Marx não estivesse discutindo isso significativamente, ele deixa algumas brechas dessa ideia de um progresso, de um mundo ideal, de um mundo em que as pessoas fossem livres, né?
Nesse livro, ele coloca muita esperança no futuro do Brasil. Isso parece a epítome do esforço futurista. Por isso, ele quer saber o que o futuro significa aqui e o que o problema do futuro significa para o Brasil e para a América Latina.
Ele, só complementando, sentiu que, quando chegou em Brasília, ele sente essa terra do futuro, né? Esse livro do Stefan Zweig chama Brasil, um País do Futuro, não sei se vocês conhecem, e ele ele falou que quando chegou aqui parece um pouco que Brasília encarna essa utopia brasileira, né?
So what I always do in my seminars and courses in Germany is to ask everyone what is their specific interest in the subject of the seminar, why they came, and what they maybe already know, or particularly what they are interested in. I'd like to do this now and ask you about your interest. You don't have to say anything if you don't want, and you don't have to be very elaborate or very explicit, but both the subject of future prevention and the matter of film analysis, film studies. I would be really interested in knowing what you think about, what you studied maybe before. So if we can have this small opening round, I'd be very happy.
Vou pedir para o Pet isso.
Ele quer saber de vocês, então, por que vocês vieram e o que vocês sabem. Vocês não precisam falar nada se não quiserem, nem elaborar muito, só falar o que vocês pensam sobre o tema e o que vocês estudam.
So should we maybe just start there and then...
Yeah, let's...
No, I know.
I speak in English or Portuguese?
If you can in English, but could also be... Yes, sounds good.
I study pedagogy,
Mm-hmm.
and this semester I made a subject with Claudia about this. I am very interested to be here, and let's see.
Okay. So also the... Yes. Mm-hmm.
My name is Amanda.
Amanda. So the what you study, which field of study is of course very interesting. So this was pedagogy. Mm-hmm.
It's the same semester as her. I have the same history actually.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested to be here since we're going to talk about algorithm. That's something that always called my attention.
Mm-hmm.
And the movies, I once saw one. Oh, I have a microphone.
Yeah.
I once saw one really before the seminar, and I really enjoyed. And when I saw it was on the subject we were going to study, I thought it was really nice. I think it's going to make us understand a little more about the kids we're going to work with in the future. And my name is Giovanna, and thank you for being here, and thank you for having such a good English. I'm really proud that I can understand you really easily.
Thank you.
Fala português mesmo. Meu nome é Kilder, eu estudo publicidade aqui na Faculdade de Comunicação, e o tema me chama bastante atenção por essa questão de prevenção do futuro mesmo, principalmente através de filmes, que sou formado em cinema também, e é uma parte de estudo acadêmico que eu gosto bastante, tipo, analisar situações em contextos sociais de acordo com uma perspectiva fílmica, assim mesmo.
Okay.
Vai traduzir.
I think it was more or less, yeah,
Yeah?
the general idea. So
They only said that he really interesting to study this team, studying for movies.
Yes.
Because it's something that he likes to analyze, movies and the reality and how they combine parts itself.
Yes. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ricardo. I study here communications theories. I'm trying to reach a master's degree, and I study Brasilia, the capital.
Okay.
My studies come from that. It was a futuristic city to try to make Brazil reach this future that Stefan Zweig imagined for Brazil and we imagine for ourselves. But 60 years later, we are just living in a city, and and that future didn't came like we tried to. Only 4 years after Brazil was founded, we had a dictatorship in Brazil, and voltamos ao passado. We
went back to the past.
We went back to the past. Yes.
Maybe we never moved.
Maybe we're still there. Yeah. So I studied the city about this perspective, and trying to use some theories of communication. Niklas Luhmann, a German.
Okay.
Seria legal você traduzir para português. I think she should translate from Portuguese because there are some people that.
Yes.
Rapidamente.
Ele basicamente falou que, principalmente pelo momento que a gente vive agora no Brasil, é importante a gente tratar essa questão do futuro, porque a gente meio que voltou para o passado. Em certos momentos a gente fica desesperançoso, então estar diante de um tema como esse realmente leva a gente a pensar e a melhorar em relação a isso.
Eu sou a Maria Luísa, eu estudo audiovisual aqui na FAC e eu tenho acho que talvez seja um ponto semelhante. Eu acho que existe um pânico muito grande agora em relação à segurança e prevenção, em parte porque existe um medo hoje de perda da democracia. E o tópico da segurança e prevenção é algo que é usado nas campanhas políticas, foi muito determinante para o que aconteceu aqui no Brasil e no resto do mundo, no ano passado. E eu acho que tem a ver também com o fato de, às vezes, o cinema não é levado muito a sério, então não é usado como um material real de estudo. Eu fico muito feliz quando você vem para um curso importante e as obras cinematográficas são avaliadas, quer dizer, são utilizadas para estudar e avaliar nossa realidade e pensar o futuro.
She said that she really enjoys the team because what she's saying in our days, similar to what we said, is that when you see our politics talking about future and prevention, they use that in a way that we can lose our democracy. And that's something that really worried us. And also here in Brazil, we do not take the movies so seriously as in other countries, for example. So that's another point that worries us.
Yeah.
And that's what she said.
Bom dia, professor. As aulas da professora Cláudia têm sido assim um exercício para nós pensarmos o tempo.
Que são de, principalmente obras literárias que são de séculos passados, mas que tão à tona essa discussão de progresso, de civilização, até mesmo de modernidade, prevenção e de risco. Então, é importante também refletir sobre isso.
She said that she's from a course that studies literature and movies, and she talks how it's interesting to be in a course and how it's difficult how it's important to be, and compare those images we have in movies, for example, with the literature that we have in past years. So,
Okay. Thank you.
She's master's student.
Bom dia, meu nome é Vicente, eu sou aluno da
Tem que falar no microfone, porque está sendo filmado.
Bom dia, meu nome é Vicente, sou aluno da professora Cláudia e também ela está me orientando num projeto de pesquisa. E eu estou aqui para entender um pouco mais a relação entre prevenção, futuro, futuridade e todos os termos que isso acarreta, para agregar na questão da educação, que eu sou aluno da pedagogia também, não sei se eu falei.
He's also a college student, and he's saying that he's interested to relate all these concepts of futurity and future, and how he can take all of this and lead those concepts to education, because he's also a student of pedagogy.
Okay.
E as meninas ali? Bora, Júlia, tá todo mundo esperando.
Meu nome é Júlia, eu sou estudante da pedagogia também, aluna da Cláudia. E esse tema eu acho que ele tem muito para agregar também na minha formação, como o Vicente disse. E é um tema que me interessa muito e todos os temas ligados a isso também.
Okay. It's okay. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Thaisa. I'm also Claudia's student, and I'm with Julia, Giovanna, and Amanda. As a young woman, the theme future, it's especially in this political scenario, is kind of terrifying for me right now. But I would like to stay out of this, get out of this place of fear. I don't think it's the best place to be. I want to move past the fear. And I'm really interested in this course, and I hope to learn a lot. That's it.
Thank you.
Bom dia, eu sou Fabiane, sou orientada pela professora Cláudia no doutorado. Na minha pesquisa agora, eu pesquiso o futuro passado nas primeiras fotografias, mapeando a transformação de sentidos da fotografia. E interessa pensar como o sentimento de futuro transforma essas práticas.
I think I got it. The general idea. Yeah, maybe it's better. Yeah, it's it. Sorry.
She only said that she's researching with Claudia about the future in the past in photography, and how the idea of the future is changing the way we do photography.
Doctorates.
Bom dia, meu nome é Ingrid, eu sou museóloga e estou agora fazendo mestrado aqui na comunicação. Sou também orientanda da professora Cláudia e a minha pesquisa é sobre as imagens do futuro nos museus. Justamente nessa perspectiva, um pouco que você trabalha, que é na modernidade, né, essa imagem de futuro do progresso, e hoje essa imagem de futuro que é bem diferente dessa do passado, que é uma imagem de futuro mais alinhada ao risco. Então, o seu curso particularmente me interessa, porque eu acho que é bem parecido com o que eu estou pesquisando.
Ok. Depois, yeah.
Bom dia, meu nome é Lúcio. Eu sou do Programa de Pós-Graduação da Comunicação, né, de doutorado. Eu estudo mediatização e o espaço. Então, acho que não dá para estudar espaço sem entender o tempo. Então, a ideia de futuro é muito importante para pensar esse tempo, mas também uma ideia de técnica, o papel da técnica na compreensão do futuro. Ainda estou no começo, então o seminário é muito interessante para tentar entender um futuro e a técnica e o espaço. Não sei, foi claro? Entendeu?
Most of it.
Okay.
Technica, see?
Yeah, I'm studying in the PhD.
Yes.
I'm PhD candidate, but I'm studying mediatization and space. So
space. I didn't get the word space. The rest, I think I got it. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, please.
Morning. I'm Simon or Simon. I'm professor of Federal University of Roraima. I work environmental journalist and journalist of climate change. I pretend work cinema of climate change on postdoctoral.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bom dia, meu nome é Uriel, sou estudante da graduação aqui do curso de Comunicação, orientando da professora Fabiola. E o curso me interessa, em geral, na nossa pesquisa, a gente estuda os usos e sentidos do tempo livre. Então, todas essas noções sobre as novas temporalidades que se criam e sobre expectativas do futuro me interessam muito. Em outra matéria, com um projeto de pesquisa também, eu estou estudando como os jovens têm a noção do futuro e como essa nova temporalidade que se cria com as mídias sociais influencia um planejamento ou uma organização do futuro desses jovens. Então, a temática acerca de todo o tempo e construção do futuro me interessa muito e acho que vai ser muito engrandecedor o seminário.
I think you need a little translation. Sorry. Just very brief, just the last project.
He's studying how the young guys are having this idea of future based on that image we are building with media social genres.
And he's inside of a project, fabulous project. It's a colleague here, and she study free time.
Okay.
Bom dia, eu sou Arthur, aluno especial de uma disciplina da Cláudia. Meu interesse nesse curso é essas questões de imagens de futuro no cinema. Eu trabalho com cinema e estudo cinema também. E eu acho que vai contribuir muito assim, para esse pensamento de que imagens que a gente faz do futuro também e como que o presente é resultado também dessas imagens feitas, né, no passado.
Okay.
Good morning. I'm Lucas. I am part of Claudia's research group, and I'm also part of Fabula's research project. I'm currently studying childhood and the use of free time, and I'm also currently graduating in cinema here at UNB. And although the future isn't a theme that I'm instantly drawn to, I think this week in your presence here is a great opportunity for me and for all of us to discuss this theme that, as other people said before me, it's incredibly important, not just in Brazil or in academic studies today, but I think we all can have a great experience in this week. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bom dia, meu nome é Isabela. Eu faço comunicação aqui na UnB e eu também faço parte do grupo de pesquisa, assim como o Lucas, os meninos. E, bom, eu gostei muito do curso, achei muito interessante por trabalhar justamente essa ideia de futuro e progresso. A ideia de futuro vai ser muito importante, né, para a nossa pesquisa de tempo livre, sobre os usos e sentidos do tempo livre. Eu pesquiso particularmente a universidade. A gente apresentou um projeto, semestre passado, sobre o suicídio, que é essa ideia de progresso na contemporaneidade dentro da universidade. E agora a gente está com um novo projeto sobre os usos e sentidos do tempo livre. Eu acho que vai ser bastante enriquecedor essa experiência.
Could you translate this?
Yeah. The last part you said.
Yeah. Yes.
She was talking about how she thinks it, and she's also in a research about how the idea of progress is going to like suicide, for example, and that's what she's studying and maybe here in UNB, and that's why she's really interested about how this idea of progress is related to this.
Okay, thank you.
Bom dia, meu nome é Adriano, eu sou aluno da Cláudia, como aluno especial da pós-graduação. A minha pesquisa para o mestrado vai ser a respeito das fotografias do Thomas Fargas, não do ponto de vista da arquitetura de Brasília, mas através do operário que veio do Nordeste para construir Brasília. Com todo esse ideal do futuro, como a cidade do futuro e essas coisas. O que me interessa bastante no curso, além dessa perspectiva de futuro, é a questão do próprio cinema norte-americano, porque boa parte da minha pesquisa durante a graduação foi a respeito desse cinema, só que mais especificamente na questão do cinema experimental da década de 60, com Stan Brakhage, com Jonas Mekas, Hollis Frampton e esses outros caras.
Okay, he's studying
Thomas Farkas.
Yes, but he's doing this research not by the perspective of the architecture, but the perspective of the operators that are working here in Brazil, and what he working here in Brazil, and what he thinks about the future and things like that. This conversion, and he also said that he's interested in the course because he's studying. Most of his studies were related with the experiment movies from north-american movies by the United Centers.
Hi, my name is Laila. I'm a postdoc student here at the department. I work with Brazilian film history and Brazilian film historiography, and of course progress is a very strong ideology regarding Brazilian cinema in many aspects. And I also work as a program film curator with contemporary Brazilian cinema, and it is a very strong aspect of Brazilian cinema, working with science fiction and Afrofuturism and how these images are going to appear in Brazilian cinema. And it would be very interesting if you could, thinking about Brasília, it would be very interesting if you could watch the films by Adilei Queiroz. He's working a lot with the idea of future, and also in opposition of this idea of Brasília as because he comes from the outskirts of Brasília, the side B of what Brasília was, and there's a very interesting filmography regarding Brasília and future, and it would be interesting if we could share this kind of production.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm going to try to speak in English. My name is Luanda. I'm also oriented by Claudia here. I'm in the master program, and I just began searching, but it's something about algorithm and big data and how does risk enters in this logic. And I also think that it's going to be very rich for me, this course, and I'm here to help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marina. I'm a doctoral degree student, and my research is about media, organizations, and state in this corruption social context. So I'm especially interested in the prevention theories here. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Good morning. I can speak Spanish. I can speak Spanish.
Yes, yes.
Entonces, buenos días. Mi nombre es Janet, soy de Cuba y estoy haciendo doctorado aquí en la Universidad de Brasilia. Comencé el doctorado este año y me llamó mucho la atención, sobre todo el título del curso, porque vengo de un país con un sistema social diferente, el sistema socialista, que es un país que siempre se ha preocupado precisamente por la prevención para preservar este sistema social que tenemos y evitar un poco las influencias de otras culturas, de otros sistemas de pensamientos, del capitalismo específicamente. Y siempre se ha dado precisamente previendo también el cine norteamericano, que trae mucha influencia para nuestro país, no solo por estar tan cerca geográficamente, sino también por los conflictos históricos que siempre han tenido Estados Unidos y Cuba. Entonces, estoy muy feliz de estar acá compartiendo con todos y agradezco mucho la oportunidad de poder compartir conocimiento y aprender de todas estas diferencias y de todos estos nuevos conocimientos que para mí son nuevos, no solo en sentido de conocimiento de disciplina, de conocimiento de teoría, sino también de conocimiento de otra cultura, de otra forma de ver el mundo, de otra línea de pensamiento. Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Bom dia a todos. Meu nome é Viviane, sou mestranda de comunicação da PPG-Com. Meu projeto está relacionado diretamente com a experiência do usuário na comunicação escrita, né, UX. Trabalho com tecnologia e a minha expectativa com relação ao curso é como vivemos nesse mundo de dados, nossas informações cada vez mais expostas, e dentro desse contexto da prevenção, eu entendo que essas imagens, esse conteúdo de prevenção, ele acaba realmente fazendo esse efeito, né? Então, assim, o que me chamou a atenção foi essa estranha negatividade da ementa da matéria, né? A gente fica já no modo proativo, né, com um certo receio daquilo que está informando, conforme os dados, como isso vai ser usado, como essas informações que você coloca na rede vão ser utilizadas. E, ao mesmo tempo que também podemos ver, além da prevenção, num ponto de vista negativo, mas a gente também pode avaliar isso como positivamente. Então, eu entendo que essa prevenção ela poderia ser de modo com que você não se exponha, mas também tire benefício desse movimento que está acontecendo, né? Acho que é isso.
First of all, she explained that she's a master's degree and she's studying how the users experience the right communication. And what she thinks is really interesting about the course is because she related the team with diversity and how we exposes our information in social media, for example. And the first thing who called us attention about the course, it's all this negative about team prevention. And she also said that she wants to see a little bit of positive on this too, not only negative, like, okay, we cannot expose ourselves because they are going to use our information, but also how can we use all the prevention to make better of
Okay, thank you.
Bom dia, meu nome é Mirella. Eu também sou estudante da professora Cláudia, estou finalizando o meu mestrado. E a minha pesquisa é especificamente sobre a velhice enquanto o futuro que alcançará todos nós. E eu faço uma tentativa de avaliar como que esses regimes de temporalidade, essa alteração dos regimes de temporalidade, também afetam a transformação dos sentidos da velhice. Então, como que a perspectiva de futuro contemporâneo, muito pautado no risco, na ameaça e nos perigos, pode também transformar o que nós entendemos enquanto velhice. E também atravessando essas questões, como que as próprias biopolíticas, né, as estratégias de poder centradas na vida, relacionadas ao regime de temporalidade, também podem transformar o que nós entendemos como velhice. Então, os sentidos da velhice no contemporâneo e os sentidos da velhice em outros tempos, né, em outros futuros.
Could you? The aging people. Okay.
Sorry, I missed the term. And that's what she interested about the course.
Aging as a future.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Olá, tudo bom? Eu sou Vanessa, eu estou começando o mestrado agora. E a minha temática também é sobre velhice, então a Mirella já falou basicamente tudo, mas também estudar como os sentidos da velhice se transformaram, né, de acordo com as noções de futuro, e principalmente essa imagem do risco que está tão presente, o quanto isso modifica a visão de velhice contemporânea.
Okay. Would you also like to say something about your?
I am one of the voluntary translators. I really hope I can do a good job here. I'm sorry if I do a lot of mistakes. If I speak so fast, you can tell me to be slowly.
So far, it's been perfect.
And I was interested on being part of it because also I wanted to help because I know a little bit of English. And also because I'm studying now, I am undergraduate in language, Portuguese and literature, but I'm taking a subject about political states in America. And we are seeing regular wars. And that's really related with this team.
Yeah.
It's related with all of what you see in our politics now. So I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry because in the next minutes I need to do a test, but I will come back.
Okay.
I'm just glad because I already know the task is going to.
Good.
But I really hope I can help
Good.
all you guys to understand that.
Thanks a lot. About you?
My name is Julie. I'm also an undergraduate student here at UNB in the Department of Foreign Languages and Translation. And since I'm a translator student, and in the course we don't have much contact with interpreting, and I like to just to try it and help you guys. But since I watched the movies and I got interested in the thematic, so I'm here. And of course I will make mistakes, so be patient.
Good. Thank you.
My name's Luisa. I started in the university studying film, as many of us here. And then I changed and graduated in international relations. So the intersection between security and prevention and movies is really interesting to me. And also I am an English teacher, so I'm here to help.
Great. Thank you very, very much. So all of this has been already so rich in aspects and disciplinary expertise or specifics. And so just to repeat a few things that have been said, I find it interesting that age is at stake. So it's about kids, it's about aging people. There is a certain temporality, of course, in everyone's life, which may or may not be directed to the future. At least it's directed to some kind of ending. So this perspective of life course, I think is very important when we think about the future, also from a psychological point of view and from the perspective of life, actually. Then I found interesting that several of you work with algorithms, big data, so the problem of calculating future risks and future chances, which again is a thing with historical depth ever since the probability calculus became a philosophical and of course also mathematical topic in early modernism since the 17th century, and of course today it's a very the whole matter of big data seems to have changed our ability to get a grasp of the future, or at least to be better at calculating it. But of course this is very much a question whether we have a clearer image of the future, or to which extent it changes our image of the future. Very interesting, I think, was the aspect of fear that you mentioned. I'm, as many of us probably, constantly thinking about Greta Thunberg's saying, "I want you to panic. I want you to panic in order to prevent future damages. She wants everyone to panic. And of course, that's another very much contested thing. So is there anything productive in fear, or is it important, as you said, to move beyond fear in order to create a future? Same with negativity, positivity. So how negative is the preventive future, and how can we create something productive or positive? And also many other things that have been mentioned, the specific topics in which future can be studied. Yeah, technology, museums, very interesting, of course. You might think that museums are places where the past is stored and that's it, but of course they are very much very important for identity politics, and also directed towards the future, just as the topic of heritage and inheritance that I have studied a lot, and that has to do with museums as well. And finally, just maybe one last aspect of the many aspects that have been mentioned. I think that the opposition of political systems, as you mentioned, socialism, capitalism, is all very often at stake. So what is a socialist, communist future, and what is a capitalist future, and what other kinds of futures could there be in the political discourse? So maybe you just want to translate my short summary of what has been said before.
Ele acha interessante que o envelhecimento seja um tópico, essa perspectiva do curso da vida, pensando o futuro a partir de uma perspectiva psicológica e realmente de vida, de fim. Ele achou interessante que muitos trabalham com algoritmos e big data, riscos e probabilidade, que era um tópico filosófico que se tornou matemático. É isso mesmo? Eu peguei certo? Okay.
De cálculo.
Uhum. A Big Data mudou a nossa maneira de entender o futuro, então isso é muito interessante para cá. Outra coisa que ele achou interessante foi o aspecto do medo. Alguém que ele citou quer que a gente paniquemos. Quem foi que falou?
Greta. Is the girl, huh?
I thought that everyone would immediately. The girl, yes, the girl from yeah.
Tá. Sim, ok.
Environment, it's not a big deal here.
Okay. Whenever I take
the Amazon.
Whenever I take a plane, I think of her, and I'm doing something wrong. Yes.
You feel guilty.
Yes.
Por isso, a produtividade no medo, ou a gente tem que sair dele para criar um futuro? Quão negativo é um futuro preventivo? A gente pode ter uma perspectiva otimista, ou é só pessimismo mesmo? Ele também achou muito interessante as perspectivas tecnológicas e museológicas do futuro, também que a oposição dos sistemas políticos entra em jogo com frequência quando a gente fala de futuro. O que é o futuro capitalista e o futuro socialista?
Em relação à questão do curso da vida, ele chegou a falar da infância também. E posso ir complementando assim as coisas, porque eu sei que é difícil, porque ele falou bastante e tal. E aí eu acho uma questão importante, que assim, essa ideia de que da Greta de produzir um pânico. Eu quero que se produza um pânico. Eu quero criar esse pânico, né? E aí ele se pergunta: o quão produtivo de fato é o medo, né? Será que o medo acaba a consequência do medo é um tipo de transformação do futuro, um desvio do futuro, né? O quão produtivo tem sido o medo, ou o medo imobiliza, né? E o quanto o futuro pode ser estudado a partir de diversas perspectivas, da tecnologia, do museu, da vida, do curso da vida, e aí, né, da questão das informações, quer dizer, como é que pensar o futuro a partir de um campo amplo de temas e subtemas. né? E aí, finalmente, a partir das imagens e tal, e finalmente a questão de que pensar um futuro também é pensar um projeto político, né? Socialismo, capitalismo, acho que é esse o debate, né? Que futuro que a gente está falando, em que medida eles são distintos e em que medida eles têm atravessamentos comuns também, como a prevenção, talvez.
Okay, so now I'm going to read this maybe 20 minutes paper. Some of what I'm reading was already in the theoretical assumptions, but I hope it's going to be okay, and it should be projected.
Here.
Yes, it's there. Okay, thank you. So when we talk about the future today, and we talked about it already, we are often talking about future dangers, uncertainties, and threats on a global scale, whether it be climate change or the development of the world economy. Despite this global perspective, I'm referring here to public debates in current Northwestern society. I already said that, particularly in Western Europe. And also, I already said that I'm very interested in hearing from you how all of this would have to be reformulated from a Latin American and especially Brazilian perspective. As for the current discourse in Western Europe, anyway, I'd claim that the prognostic culture of our time is mainly directed towards a certain securitization of the future, towards preservation and sustainability. Such an approach to the future is based on the knowledge of statistical risk factors, and it requires the optimization of precautions. That means it creates a regime of prevention. This form of future-oriented thinking is reflected today in security policy and biopolitical strategies, for example. Whether it is in precautions against potential criminal or terrorist attacks, or in the multiplying range of medical precautions, prevention is being raised to the standard of responsible handling of one's own life and that of future generations. Prevention means trying to be prepared for the future, to control and to anticipate it in a certain way. The term prevention is derived from Latin prevenire, to preempt. The ideal typical opposite of a preventable future is the future as impending advent. An adventive future from advenire, as in the French avenir, and also the German word Zukunft has this coming. Zukunft means actually to coming towards us. Yeah, it's the same as avenir. So, two contrary approaches to the future are thus designated: hopeful or fearful expectation of the advent versus active intervention as preventing the future. The temporal structure of anticipating the future in prevention is connected with the principal negativity of the future, which is conceptualized as undesirable and therefore, in another negation, to be prevented. German sociologist Peter Fuchs has formulated this constellation quite concisely and paradoxically. In preventive thinking, the future becomes, in a certain way, the cause of its own prevention. If prevention works, it will never have been the future of any present. So that's the paradox of prevention according to this sociologist. If prevention works, it will never have been the future of any present. And we may think about the very grammar of this phrase. Mm-hmm. It's quite complicated, actually. From a logical point of view, prevention is paradoxical. In practice, it can nevertheless be effective and become operative. Any preemptive action requires, and here I quote another German sociologist, Ulrich Bröckling, who wrote very interesting papers and also interesting books about prevention. So any preventive action requires that, firstly, unwelcome prospective conditions can be forecast from present indicators, so you can already see the future in the present. That, secondly, indications of undesirable developments worsen without intervention, so it would become worse if you don't intervene. Thirdly, early interventions promise maximum risk minimization, so act early. And preemptive interventions, fourthly, can be conceptualized as remedial. So it really helps if you act upon the future. Thus, the tension between the possible implementation of prevention and its logical paradoxes results in the practical ambivalences of preemptive interventions. So it works, that's the slogan we will see in the Minority Report, pre-crime, it works. Yeah? It works, but in a strange kind of way. Yeah. So that's what we are trying to think about. And this leads actually to far-reaching questions. How does knowledge about possible future developments even arise, and how is it distributed? Who gets to decide what count as undesirable or desirable future outcomes? By extension, who gets to authorize and approve preventive measures? These questions especially apply to the future management of our present age, with its focus on statistical risk factors and preventive optimization. Prevention thus attains not only a strongly normative but also normalizing dimension. So I'm just referring to this difference between normativity and normality, and according to Ulrich Bröckling, it's not only normative, it becomes normal. Yeah, we all think of prevention as normal. That's what normalizing means. By, again, Ulrich Bröckling, equally interpolating everybody on a group as well as on an individual level. And in this way, prevention becomes totalizing and individualizing simultaneously. It affects the total, the whole society, the whole world, and it affects everybody in his and her individuality. This kind of orientation toward the future has become the standard, as I already said, in various societal functional areas such as medicine, the police, and the military. As for medicine, individual self-care is associated with generational welfare and with the welfare of entire populations from a genetic, genealogical, and an epidemiological perspective. Medical prevention is a biopolitical concern, and we are within a discussion about biopolitics this week and the next week. So a biopolitical concern that is dealt with nationally by government agencies, such as in the US, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and there are many such agencies in various nations, and internationally, the World Health Organization, WHO, since the turn of the millennium, is especially concerned with highly contagious infectious diseases. The WHO's concept of pandemic preparedness signifies both the function as well as the limitation of prevention. As it is considered unlikely that the spread of contagious diseases can be avoided entirely, optimal preparedness becomes all the more important for limiting its effects. In this context, the positive term, resilience, instead of the just negative term prevention, so the positive term resilience is often used instead of prevention and could even be extended to refer to the entire world population, as Ban Ki-moon once stated, the former UN General Secretary. This is how we will make the global community more resilient. So that was for medicine, and we will deal with medicine in a special way on Thursday when we talk about the 12 monkeys. That's about a contagious disease, some germs set free by a crazy guy that actually killed most of the world population, and then we are in a future society and someone is sent back in time, a time traveler, in order to prevent retrospectively this global extinction, more or less, of the world's population. For criminal prevention, security agencies often use software intended to predict and prevent future crimes on the basis of surveys of past offenses or surveillance databases. Such tools are the result of cooperations between police and academic researchers. For example, the pre-crime company pol, predictive police, which develops, quote from their website, customized crime predictions for the places and times that crimes are most likely to occur on the basis of the parameters crime type, crime location, and crime date time. So this company, pol, originated from a joint research project of the Los Angeles Police Department and the UCLA, the University of California at Los Angeles. So this is very symptomatic, very telling for these approaches. You have academics and the police somehow working together at calculating future crime risks. In Europe, the international and interdisciplinary research project INDECT, that's another acronym for, I don't know what it signifies again, but it was a research project that optimized existing video surveillance systems through threat monitoring. Yeah, you try to monitor a risk or danger with the aim of providing advanced and innovative algorithms for human decision support in combating terrorism and other criminal activities. So that was a huge research project. It has ended now, but it was really about gathering a lot of data to optimize algorithms, and the idea was really we can calculate where criminal activities and terrorist activities are most likely to occur, and then we can prevent them. Yeah. So you have like what are considered to be terrorist hotspots, like this one banlieue, this neighborhood of Brussels, from where the attacks in Brussels were directed and so on. If you have enough data, that's the thinking, then you can already see where the next terrorist attack will be planned.
Vocês entenderam? Ele está falando de um sistema de algoritmo que são os hotspots, os lugares quentes, que ele, teoricamente, quanto mais informação, mais data você tem, mais você poderia prever esses lugares que são ameaçadores, né, que podem ter ataques terroristas ou outro tipo de time de crimes e tal. Falei?
Yeah. And among our movies, this is, of course, pre-crime is the issue of the Minority Report, and you will see, or maybe you already have seen, that we don't need big data there. We just need especially gifted people. Yeah, you have these precogs, but at the same time, you see in the movie particularly, also in the short story on which it is based, that it has to do with calculating, that there is a lot of technology involved. You have visionary people, but you also need to somehow arrange data in an electronic way.
Quer falar?
No filme Minority Report, que não tem o Big Data, mas tem os precogs, que são pessoas extremamente habilidosas, com superpoderes quase, que mesmo com esses superpoderes ainda assim é necessária uma forma de organização.
De monitoramento e de cálculo.
Sim.
Cálculo.
In the so-called, I'm back to my text now, in the so-called war on terror, police and military prevention frequently overlap. The algorithmization of prevention furthermore minimizes human decision-making, for example, through the employment of military drones. So here, algorithms immediately the algorithms are not they are not aids for decision, but they work immediately on the military operations.
Os algoritmos aqui, eles não são os responsáveis exatamente pelas decisões, mas eles trabalham imediatamente preparando as decisões militares, né? No caso dos drones, de onde os drones vão atuar.
Not only in such extreme cases must the state's role in the official and administrative implementation of prevention indeed be viewed critically. Ilya Troyanov and Yuli C., two German authors, write in their manifesto, The Attack on Freedom, that all preventive measures implemented by governments are premised on categorizing all individuals as potential threats and treating them accordingly. From this critical perspective, prevention always entails the curtailment of individual liberty, including the denial of a fully open future. For the individual, a future holding an infinite number of possible outcomes with an infinite number of possible participants, thus is a scenario of unlimited possibilities. For the state, on the other hand, it is a threat scenario that must be averted by all means. Again, Troyanov and C., anything can happen, everybody is a suspect. According to this analysis, Western democracies are in the process of changing from constitutional to security states and mounting an attack against their own citizens as the allegedly safe citizen is the regulated citizen. Again, Troyanov and C., and this has also been discussed by Giorgio Agamben. Yet, relying on this rigid state versus citizen opposition does not allow one to grasp the current problem of prevention in its entirety, as prevention is not only, and maybe not even primarily, imposed from above, imposed upon us, but also pursued from below. Digital self-tracking, collecting and surveying personal measurements, often for medical purposes, as well as the success of movements such as quantified self. I don't know if you have ever heard about it, the quantified self, providing their users with self-knowledge through numbers, that's the slogan, are more recent examples of the connection between prevention and self-care. So there's a certain interest of everyone in prevention.
Self-knowledge, autoconhecimento a partir dos números, né? Então, é como se você monitorasse. Para você se conhecer, você precisaria desse cálculo também, e para você saber quais são as prevenções. É como se você traduzisse o ser a partir de números também, de um cálculo.
users increasingly make quantifiable aspects of their behavior accessible through established as well as state-of-the-art mobile devices, smart watches, and everyone's smartphones, of course, and often readily submit themselves to behavioral optimization. So, a critical analysis of these decentralized and increasingly globalized effects of prevention regimes must go beyond state imposition as an explanatory framework and instead examine the overlap between diverse and often contradictory objectives, practices, and responsibilities of the state, the individual, and not least economic actors. A nuanced critique of prevention thus must begin below the level of political implementation and uncover its cultural foundations and historical preconditions. The concerns over security that are at the basis of preventive behaviors are not only an instrument of state power, but a much further reaching way of dealing with contingency. They are closely tied to the extremely negativistic notion of the future as catastrophe. So here we are again at the apocalypse, the catastrophe, but not in the biblical way, but in a current way of thinking about the future as catastrophe.
Aqui a gente estaria de novo lidando com a catástrofe, mas não no sentido bíblico, no sentido mais profano e contemporâneo.
And this way of conceptualizing the future historically can be dated to the future shock, the so-called future shock of the early 1970s. With this term, futurologist Alvin Toffler, US-American futurologist, referred to a feeling of crisis born of the greatly accelerated pace of technological and economic change that no longer elicited optimism, but a sense of impending doom, and thus motivated the development of survival strategies. Mm-hmm. Around the same time, around 1970, global threat scenarios, as well as rescue strategies that at the same time were appeals to a radically changed, sustainable orientation towards the future on behalf of the generations to come, were high on the agenda in various scientific and cultural fields. Titles such as Blueprint for Survival from 1972, Limits to Growth, very famous book from 1972 again, Limits to Growth. So the economy cannot grow and grow and grow, there are limits. The resources are limited, and if we keep on growing, the planet won't be sufficient. It won't deal with it. Yeah?
Então, a ideia de que o planeta vai crescer, 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 e se ele continuar crescendo, a gente não vai ter como lidar com isso, né? A gente não vai ter recursos suficientes. E blue é aquela coisa deprimida também, né? Yeah. Aqui antes.
So that was 1972, and also World Heritage from 1972. So protect and safeguard the cultural and natural heritage. All of this became very popular in the early 1970s. Against this backdrop, another German sociologist, Franz Xaver Kaufmann, as early as 1970, diagnosed a paradoxical relation to the future, a temporal closure effected through prolonging the present into a secured future. Thus, a tension with the actual temporality of the future was created, in particular in regard to its incalculable openness. So the actual temporality of the future is open, Kaufmann says, but now, around 1970, paradoxically, the future seems to close.
Então, a temporalidade real dos futuros, segundo Kaufman, é uma temporalidade aberta, você não sabe de fato o que acontecerá no futuro, mas ele já falava em 1970 que o futuro se torna cada vez mais fechado.
Kaufman challenged then current findings of historiography. German historian Reinhard Koselleck had, since the late 1960s, theorized that a fundamental change in modeling the future had taken place during the European saddle period, as he calls it, the saddle period between 1750 and 1850, that was characterized by an increasing discrepancy between the realm of experience and the horizon of expectation. Two important terms, thinking about the future: the realm of experience, what we have already experienced, and the horizon of expectation, what can we expect in the future.
Dois termos importantes teoricamente são aqueles conceitos do Koselleck, que é o espaço da experiência e o horizonte de expectativa, né? O espaço da experiência se referindo a toda a forma de a gente organizar o passado, que é o período de cela que inaugura para o Koselleck, que é uma marca de uma mudança nessa modalização temporal.
If it's okay, I'm going to skip the next two paragraphs and starting with Niklas Luhmann again.
Okay.
It's okay?
Following Koselleck,
exactly.
Niklas Luhmann.
Following Koselleck, this historian just mentioned, Niklas Luhmann, yet another German sociologist, based his sociological theory on risk in the late 18th century. For Luhmann, the distinction between risk and danger is key. Danger is to be understood as externally induced potential harm ascribed to the environment. Risk, on the other hand, as risk of decision, whose possible harm is a consequence of the decision. So many of you have studied risk, and that's, I think, very important. Risk is different from danger. Danger somehow comes like a wild animal. Risk starts when you calculate how big is the risk when I walk this way, the risk that really a wild animal might come towards me.
A diferença entre risco mesmo e o perigo, né? O perigo é o que pode acontecer, um animal selvagem e tal. O risco é quando eu calculo, é a percepção, né? Eu calculo esse perigo, né? É um pouco diferente, importante distinguir.
Within the resulting field of tension between security and insecurity, prevention, preparing for uncertain future losses, becomes the crucial factor of risk management. Prevention influences the willingness to take risks, all of this Niklas Luhmann, and must be described as risk distribution strategy. Furthermore, the omission of preventions becomes a risk. So you need to calculate risks in order to create prevention, and if you do not prevent, that increases the risk. There are thus good reasons to trace back the history of the preventive self far into the history of modernity. The same applies to the preventive care of the state, for which François Ewald coined the term l'état-providence, providential state. This term signifies the secularization of divine providence, in which welfare and foreknowledge had been combined in the past. However, the succession of divine providence by secular preventive care techniques was not a clear-cut affair. If the concept of prevention expresses a desire for overcoming contingency, as I already said, that aims precisely at maximalizing authority over the future, then the notion of divine providence seems to have survived within the secular contingency management. So on the one hand, you can, as I said at the outset, distinguish between advent and prevention, divine advent coming towards us, and secular prevention, what we do. But when you think about the maximization of authority over the future, then maybe prevention is quite similar to divine knowledge.
Divine knowledge,
like higher knowledge about the future. You have to know very much about the future in order to prevent it.
Ele está falando que, de uma certa forma, não sei se, Luísa, de uma certa forma há uma distinção entre saber divinamente o futuro e prever o risco e calcular o risco, mas há uma generalização tão grande uma certeza tão grande desse cálculo que essas duas coisas acabam se sobrepondo.
If this is true, then the opposition between a secular, preventable future and a salvational, adventive future would not be as unambiguous as I claimed at the beginning. And this is important for the historical scope of a cultural studies analysis of prevention. Complex historical relationships must be taken into account when we try to analyze the logic and the techniques of prevention today. So, can prevention potentially be conceptualized within any given cultural temporal order, linear or cyclical? Or is the basic notion of the arrow of time on which an occurrence can happen only one, even with different degrees of finality, a prerequisite? So, do we have to have a linear time in order to prevent, or can it also be in a cyclical time? Obviously, it is possible to reflect on prevention also in the context of cyclical notions of time. Friedrich Nietzsche, in Human, All Too Human, fatalistically ponders a possible orbit of humanity in which, for instance, the decline of Roman culture heralds the decline of universal world culture. So everything happens again and again in a circle of time. But Nietzsche concludes in a preventive fashion, quote, precisely because we can envision this perspective on the circle of time, we are perhaps in a position to prevent the future from reaching such an end. German philosopher Hans Blumenberg even declares prevention to be an anthropological constant. He calls human beings creatures adjusted to prevention. They seek to master that which is not yet imminent. According to Blumenberg, preventive behavior once secured the human species' evolutionary survival after the loss of its specialization in close combat. So you do not fight the wild animals anymore, but you somehow try to prevent their attack.
Você não briga exatamente, não luta com os animais exatamente, mas você tenta prever esse embate.
This behavior had been gradually expanded into a concept, a blueprint, an order, and, quote again, inevitably led to the development of societies. The importance of this neo-Darwinist interpretation lies not so much in its assertion of a culture-independent constant, than in its reduction of the issue of prevention from contemporary social techniques to ones of human behavior on a basic and fundamental level. So prevention is not just technique, it's not just politics, it's not just social organization, it has to do with our human condition in a way.
Prevenção, então, não teria a ver só com um problema político, um problema de cálculo, um problema de segurança, mas da nossa condição humana.
If prevention thus can be defined as an instrument of possibility, as Blumenberg says, then it is the fictions involved that are of special interest. So possibility and fictions are linked. It is not by chance that fictive scenarios are often used to explain the functioning of preventive measures. For instance, almost every paper on criminal prevention makes reference to the Minority Report, to Philip K. Dick's story, and particularly to Steven Spielberg's film. And we will talk about this and other movies in the next days. For now, I would just like to state, to conclude, that literature and film are particularly suited to negotiate the logical and temporal contradictions of prevention, and in this way can help to critically reflect on its current forms. And this is true on a fundamental and systematic level. There is no core of rational and technical preventive knowledge onto which then fiction grafts subsequent additions within more or less plausible fictive worlds or more or less exciting stories. So there is no prevention per se, and then afterwards we invent fictions and fantasies. Rather, prevention as knowledge about possible futures is already thoroughly permeated by fictions. Eva Horn, in her aforementioned book on the future as catastrophe, refers to a structural fictionality. The structural fictionality at the heart of prevention's relation to the future. And this is not simply about the difference between fact and fiction, but about constituting, as Eva Horn says, a realm of possible alternatives of equally plausible, yet contradictory or mutually exclusive versions of an event. So this is why it's interesting to study fiction, to study structured imaginations, as in the films we are going to discuss, in order to find out how prevention actually works as an instrument of possibility.
Por isso que é importante estudar a ficção, como faremos com os filmes, para descobrir como a prevenção realmente atua.
Okay, that was my introduction. Sorry for being rather lengthy. I don't know, should we take a break and then discuss a little further? Yeah.
It's good for you? I think we could take a break. Not too long, like 10 minutes maximum, and then we come back to talk a little bit.
Yeah.
Então a gente vai fazer um intervalo rápido. Desculpa. 10 minutos.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'll just keep on using these drops. It's been 5 days now.
Should be better.
Yeah, normally should be better. Yeah.
How do you feel?
It's a little aching. Yeah.
Yes. I'm gonna think about.
Yeah.
Muito obrigada. Você foi minha aluna, não foi?
Sim, em 2012.
2012. Thanks a lot.
Oh, you're welcome. Is it going fine?
It's fine, yes.
We do differently?
No. I'm very happy with it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you understand what I'm translating?
Yes.
Am I translating it properly?
Yes, as far as I see, it's
okay.
Yeah, I think it's great.
There's a lot that I can't grasp.
I know.
Some concepts
yes.
that are there.
But I think it's working. When I see the I try to.
I think she's a little too nervous. I'm not sure.